Hello again. I know that many people, particularly those watching this channel, are irritated by the expression white fragility, which is in fact rather the point that the author of this book, Robin DiAngelo, makes repeatedly. She says that most white people feel uneasy talking about race and that they become defensive if anybody suggests that they are racially prejudiced. She also claims that many, perhaps most, white people deny that they view or treat black people any differently from the way they do whites. The first thing I think that we can agree about is that on these points, Robin DiAngelo is absolutely right. Of course I notice the skin colour of people, and I certainly interact differently with black people than I do with those of my own ethnicity. I don't say that I'm hostile towards them or abusive, but I am without doubt aware of their race, and this affects how I relate to them. I don't think there's anything controversial there. Speaking for myself, I don't feel at all uncomfortable talking about ethnicity and race, but DiAngelo might well be right when she says that a lot of white people do. She ought to know she's been in the field of diversity training for over 20 years. She must have seen an awful lot of white people react when she starts talking about their inherent racism, I would think. Now, I can't answer for America. DiAngelo is a white American liberal. But her claim that white people do not even notice their own race strikes me as unlikely. Are viewers of this channel really unaware of their own skin colour? And do they really think it doesn't matter? It certainly matters to me, and I think it has given me an edge being white, so that I find the concept of white people claiming that they don't take notice of their own skin colour a little fanciful. Another of her claims is that most white people believe that racism is rare and something which only affects bad people, as she puts it. Again, I don't see this at all. Of course there's a lot of racial prejudice around, and also racism in the sense that people champion their own ethnic group. I can see that a lot amongst white people, and I can see it also amongst black people and Punjabis and Chinese. I don't think that the majority of white people really think that racism is very, very rare. The chief point upon which I find Robin DiAngelo not only entirely wrong, but also advancing a dangerous doctrine is her insistence that we should abandon the idea of objectivity and listen rather to lived experience of people, especially black people. She says that there can be no scientific, philosophical or ethical objectivity, and that it is all steeped in race, mostly the product of the white race. This, it will be remembered, is a key plank of critical race theory, that we should avoid the ideas of rational discourse and objective discussion in favour of listening to the lived experiences of black people. This strikes me as absurd, because people lie all the time about their lived experiences, and there's no reason to suppose that black people will be immune to this general tendency. This idea that rejecting all the lessons of the Enlightenment of the 18th century and returning to a world where our personal perspective or the stories which others tell should act as our guide to the world seems to me raving mad, likely to bring about a new dark age. We had many centuries of living that way without the scientific method and the belief that we can measure things and establish objective truth. Those were the years, centuries, millennia, where we lived according to myth and fable, where people told stories, and rather than analyse those stories and ask ourselves how true they were, or examine things in a scientific way, we simply took myths and other people's stories as being gospel truth. That didn't end very well, did it? It didn't really produce a modern industrial society. That people today are urging us to abandon reason in favour of myth-making and storytelling doesn't seem to me a way for the human race to progress. Quite the opposite.